On this Sunday night, the U.S. Defense Secretary on the defensive. The reports that Pete Hegseth ordered all crew members of an alleged Venezuelan drug boat killed.
This rises to the level of a war crime.
How it's now the focus of a bipartisan committee. The U.S. investigation into the shooting of 2 National Guards. What we're learning about the Afghan immigrant suspect.
But I will say, we believe he was radicalized since he's been here in this country.
Plus, hundreds displaced by a Toronto apartment fire as winter weather blasts southern Ontario. And a potential game changer to treating ALS. The Winnipeg scientist from India behind it.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. More trouble for the Trump administration this weekend, this time over reports the U.S. Secretary of Defense may have committed a war crime. According to a story by the Washington Post, Pete Hegseth allegedly ordered defense officials to kill all crew members of a boat believed to be smuggling drugs in the Caribbean that was targeted by airstrikes. Survivors of the initial strike were also said to be killed. Well, now a bipartisan effort is underway to investigate those allegations, putting these controversial bombardments by the U.S. under further scrutiny. Candice Cole has the latest from Washington.
Going after survivors in the water, that is clearly not lawful.
That's Senator Mark Kelly on CNN Sunday, sounding off with other lawmakers in Washington after news broke in the Washington Post Friday about an order given by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to U.S. troops to, quote, kill everybody aboard an alleged drug trafficking boat leaving Venezuela on September 2nd. According to the Post, the first airstrike on the boat left 2 survivors, but to carry out Hegseth's order, the Special Operations Commander ordered a second strike, killing 11 people in total. The revelation now prompting a bipartisan investigation into the Defense Secretary.
This rises to the level of a war crime if it's true.
Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act.
Hegseth fired back against the report, calling it, quote, fake news, and further defended his actions as being within U.S. and international law. However, the rules of the Geneva Convention state that anyone who is not engaged in fighting must be treated humanely, and that attacking someone who is considered out of the fight is a, quote, grave breach of the protocol.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him.
Senator Kelly again on CNN.
Very disturbing. I think there needs to be an Inspector General investigation. I've got serious concerns about anybody in that, chain of command stepping over a line that they should never step over. We are not Russia. We're not Iraq.
The September 2nd attack sparked an ongoing series of airstrikes on suspected but unproven drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean, so far killing over 80 people. In only one reported instance, the U.S. sent a pair of survivors back to their home countries following a boat strike in October. Both the Senate and House Armed Services Committees are now launching inquiries into the Department of Defense over the September 2nd boat strike. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In Florida, senior U.S. officials began talks with diplomats from Kyiv in an attempt to make further progress on a potential deal to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
They want peace, but it's also about securing an end to the war that leaves Ukraine sovereign and independent.
We are discussing about the future of Ukraine, about the security of Ukraine, about no repetition of aggression of Ukraine.
The talks are focused on revisions to U.S. President Trump's initial 28-point plan to end the war, a proposal that's faced much international criticism for its major concessions to Moscow's demands. That includes ceding Ukrainian territory to Russia, as well as preventing Ukraine from joining NATO. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem revealed more details about the investigation into the shooting of 2 National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C. In an interview with NBC News, she suggests the Afghan immigrant accused of ambushing them was not radicalized until after he arrived in the U.S.
I will say we believe he was radicalized since he's been here in this country. We do believe it was through connections in his home community and state, and we're going to continue to talk to those who interacted with him.
The 29-year-old suspect used to be part of a CIA-backed military unit in Afghanistan. When the Taliban seized control in 2021, he joined the Biden administration's massive evacuations of Afghans who aided the U.S. He was then granted asylum by the Trump administration this year. But that hasn't stopped Trump from blaming the shooting on Joe Biden's immigration policies and from clamping down on legal immigration and asylum applications. The mayor of Stockton, California, is calling Saturday night's shooting, quote, unacceptable. 4 people were killed and 11 wounded during a family gathering at a banquet hall in the community northeast of San Francisco. Police say the victims include children and adults. Police are suggesting it was a targeted incident and are still searching for a suspect. A blast of winter weather hit parts of the U.S. Midwest and southern Ontario this weekend. Overnight, snow was replaced by strong winds and rain across the Toronto area, with wind gusts of up to 70 kilometers an hour expected for parts of the region. South of the border, the snowfall caused a massive pileup along an interstate in Indiana, and a plane slid off the runway in Iowa. That winter weather is adding to the stress for hundreds of residents of 2 Toronto apartment buildings forced from their homes 4 days ago by a fire. As Lexy Benedict reports, with no time frame on when they can go home and supports running out, many may be left to fend for themselves.
For the 4th straight day, a fire continues to burn behind the walls of these 2 high-rise apartment buildings. Hundreds of residents are still displaced, and still no timeline on when they'll be able to return home.
It's very stressful, but we have to do it.
It started as an electrical fire on Thursday at 11 Thorncliffe Park Drive, but the flames spread to an adjacent building, 21 Overley Boulevard. And despite round-the-clock efforts, the fire continues to burn.
We're keeping our progress going forward, but at this point, we really don't have any end in sight.
Officials explaining on Saturday that the fire is difficult for crews to reach.
There is a substrate in between, a type of insulation that is a very slow smoldering burn. It's causing CO levels to go up, and it's not a very high heat fire, but it's causing smoke and elevated temperatures as well.
Fortunately, no one was hurt, but 378 units across the 2 towers were evacuated due to elevated carbon monoxide levels. Residents just hoping for answers.
This is our home, so we feel displaced and a bit upset.
I hope and pray. We all hope and pray.
The cause of the fire remains under investigation. Shelter buses were seen on Sunday shuttling residents from their hotels to their homes to pick up any essentials.
So I just grabbed some boots because of the weather today.
As of Sunday, the Canadian Red Cross says it's providing 279 people across 134 households with emergency accommodations and food. But the question for many residents is, how long will this support be there?
The Red Cross handles everything for us, but until then, we are allowed only for 4 days in the hotel, and after that, we don't know yet.
The City of Toronto says residents have been advised to work with their insurance providers about how their individual policies can support them. And as crews remain on scene for another day, the Canadian Red Cross is continuing to offer support to those who have been affected. But for residents who live in these 2 buildings, they're just hoping that an end is in sight. Lexy Benedict, Global News.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands of unhoused Canadians are struggling without a warm place to stay. According to Canada's national homeless count, nearly 60,000 people are homeless on any given night, with more than 119,000 relying on shelters this year. Indigenous people make up about 30% of shelter users. Most are men, and big cities are hardest hit. Toronto says it has opened more than 1,200 shelters ahead of winter, but experts say it doesn't meet the need. This weekend is the kickoff to the holiday shopping season, with Cyber Monday coming on the heels of Black Friday. And if you're not using AI to help find deals and ideas this year, you're in the minority. And Gaviola has more on this year's shopping trends.
I like the price.
A special time of year for bargain hunters, a headache and hassle for humbugs.
This year we're expecting Black Friday to actually have more growth than Cyber Monday, yet Cyber Monday is still king in terms of total revenue online.
The holiday shopping season kicks off with some perks this year.
I think you'll see some of the discounts be a little deeper.
More than 3/4 plan to spend less than they did last year, according to a new poll by OmniSend. Nearly 80% are using AI this year for deal hunting, writing gift messages, and budgeting. And chatbots aren't just for spotting sales.
It's also for getting ideas. You know, you might know someone a little bit, you don't know them that well, you know a few things about them, and you have no idea what to buy them. So it really helps in that regard.
But many shoppers are cash-strapped this year, focused on value and getting more bang for their buck.
So a category shift. Instead of buying very expensive gifts, they may be switching to cheaper products.
There's the return of the K-shaped spending trend, where two types of consumers are shopping. People who fared very well financially in recent years and are looking for high-end purchases, and those who are financially stressed by a slowing economy, tariff uncertainty, and a tough job market.
The K-shape really refers to the growth of luxury spending and the growth of value spending on the bottom, but that middle sort of spending is missing now.
Consumers are price conscious, but still interested in buying and supporting Canadian products. Marketing experts say consumers need to be on guard against so-called maple washing and learn to understand labels.
Made in Canada, a product of Canada, these labels don't all mean the same thing.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business invites shoppers to support local businesses. Shopping local means 66 cents of every dollar goes directly back into the community, unlike American chains and tech giants. Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
Devastation in parts of Asia. Coming up, the death toll rises as millions are impacted by a week-long monsoon. In Honduras, voting is underway to elect a new president just days after U.S. President Donald Trump's intervention in the race. Last week, Trump endorsed conservative candidate Nasri Tito Asfura and threatened to cut aid to the country if Asfura loses. Trump also made a surprise announcement on Friday that he would pardon former President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Hernandez is currently serving a 45-year sentence in the U.S. on drug trafficking charges. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now asking the country's president for a pardon in his corruption trial. Netanyahu says the pardon would be good for the country. In a letter, his lawyer argues that ending the trial would help national reconciliation and ease the burden of frequent court appearances. Israel's opposition leader says Netanyahu should plead guilty and retire if he wants a presidential pardon. Netanyahu has been standing trial for the past 5 years on charges of fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes. Pope Leo is calling on Lebanon's political leaders to be true peacekeepers and put their differences aside. The pontiff made the appeal as he arrived in the country for a 3-day visit, the second leg of his first overseas trip as the head of the Catholic Church. Leo's trip comes at a tense time, 1 year after an uneasy truce was established between Israel and the Lebanese-backed militant group Hezbollah. To Southeast Asia now, where week-long monsoons intensified by tropical storms have caused some of the worst flooding across the region in years. Hundreds have been killed in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Sri Lanka. With more than 4 million impacted, Vincent McAvenny looks at the scale of the devastation.
On Indonesia's western island of Sumatra, almost 450 people have been killed after 3 provinces were devastated by landslides and floods following Cyclone Senya's rains. Dozens more are missing from the deluge. Evacuation efforts are underway, but emergency services have been hampered by major roads being cut off and telecommunications and electricity blackouts. Relief and rescue teams have had to use helicopters to deliver aid to the nearly 1.1 million people affected. This woman's entire neighborhood was swept away, leaving her family of 9 living under a tarp. When it happened, the water just rose up into the house and we were so afraid we fled. And we came back on Friday and the house was gone, destroyed. Across the Malacca Strait, neighboring Malaysia and Thailand have also been affected, with 170 Thai people killed in flooding in the south of the country. These monks have begun trying to clean up their temple. The flood itself wasn't frightening, but what comes after the water recedes is what's really worrying and frightening. People are bruised by the experience, full of anxiety, regret and sadness. Further west, Sri Lanka is grappling with one of its worst weather disasters in recent years, after Cyclone Ditwa left at least 212 people dead, with a further 218 missing due to floodwaters breaching a dam. A state of emergency has been declared on the island nation, with more than 15,000 homes destroyed and 80,000 forced into temporary shelters. A third of the country has been left without running water or electricity. Cyclone Ditwa is now hitting India's southeast coast. Meteorologists say while it's difficult to link individual weather events to climate change, it is making the kinds of storms we've seen in Southeast Asia this week more frequent and intense, resulting in heavier rainfall and flash floods. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
Ahead, why one of this country's most famous and valued fish is on the brink of extinction. Concern is being raised about troubling low returns of a certain BC fish species. The Fraser River late summer steelhead run is at the lowest it's been in decades. Paul Johnson has more on what could be behind the drop in numbers for the popular fish and the dire prospects for its survival in the wild.
An angler lands a magnificent interior steelhead. Anyone who's caught one of the big silver fish will tell you how unique they are.
Very, very special fish, and they come back in the fall when the water's warm and they bite and they fight hard, and so they're very special.
Steelhead are basically ocean-going trout. BC has several distinct populations, but the ones that travel up the Fraser to spawn in the Thompson and Chilcotin rivers are the most iconic and most threatened, which is why the results from a test fishery done recently on the Fraser River near Langley are so disturbing.
Nothing. Big fat zero. And this is the first time in all of the years going back into the 1970s where they have not caught a single fish.
Marvin Rosenau is a fisheries biologist with the BC Wildlife Federation. He says a combination of threats, from accidental catch by the chum salmon fishery to predation by seals and sea lions, has pushed these steelhead to the brink, from which they may not return. So if these numbers are correct and hold up in the coming years, this means that one of the country's most iconic fish, the interior BC steelhead, has now been functionally eliminated from its native habitat. If there's anything that can be done at this point, Rosenau says it starts with Ottawa listing the interior steelhead as a species at risk, something he says they've been hesitant to do. Others hope a hatchery program might save them.
Some thought should be seriously given to taking a few of these fish, certainly not all of them, but maybe a couple of pairs, 2 males, 2 females, and propagating them in a controlled environment.
But those are all unknowns. What is certain now is the legendary fish that once drew anglers from around the world to places like Spence's Bridge and Cache Creek couldn't be spotted at all in the fall of 2025.
When you've seen the animals and you've touched them and your soul has kind of met with their soul, it's pretty harsh to see them gone and, essentially the way of the dodo.
On the lower Fraser, Paul Johnson, Global News.
Next, the Winnipeg newcomer whose research could change, even save thousands of lives. The Vancouver Whitecaps stunned the hometown crowd in San Diego last night, winning their semifinal match 3-1. It's the first time in club history they've advanced to the MLS Finals. They play Lionel Messi and Inter Miami in the title game on Saturday. Well, most professions don't get that kind of fanfare, but a chemist in Winnipeg was recently honored for his innovative work co-creating a drug to treat ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Melissa Ridgen takes us inside the lab where the medical breakthrough happened.
It's an element we don't hear much of.
This is boron.
But this trace element could have incredible effects on the human body. It's being studied here.
We apply a vacuum to it, and then
try and remove the solvent. All of the liquid's removed, and then we'll be left with the solid behind.
So it's one of the steps for the purification of borsantrazole.
6 years of lab work and voila, an aspiring new drug patented and trademarked as borsantrazole, a beacon of hope for as many as 4,000 Canadians living with the devastating neurological disease ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The drug has already worked in slowing progression of the disease in lab mice and recently won a national MITAX Innovation Award for its potential to extend life in affected humans. But it's only the first big step.
We really want to move our academic research from bench to bedside of the patients. And for that, we need fund.
The cause is close to Sungi's heart, despite only learning of the disease a few short years ago. While studying it, he also volunteers at the ALS Society.
Every day, I can see my friends, they are dying with ALS. And that gives me a purpose, a vital purpose for my research, and a responsibility, deep responsibility, that we have to do something.
Friends like Sherry Butishin.
Congratulations on the Innovation Award, and thank you Nitesh and Dr. Tranwer for creating hope in the lives of ALS people through your research.
His colleagues are celebrating too. What's needed now? Time and a lot of money.
The regulatory bodies, rightly so, want to make sure that it's safe. And then you put it into humans just so that you understand how it behaves in healthy humans. And then that can take another 6 months to a year, and then you can apply to put it into ALS patients. We can hopefully make an impact to those people who are newly diagnosed, in a few years.
Giving hope to the next generation affected by this disease. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Colleen Christie. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Rainy Lake in Ontario, near Millet, Alberta, and Abbotsford, BC. Please keep emailing your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.